I have to reach out like this, like a zombie attacking the telescope. Look at that. Welcome back to the Astronomy Garage. Now I have a confession to make. After all these years and all the telescopes I've fixed, I only have one refractor left in the Astronomy Garage. I used to have an old Stellar View, but I accidentally destroyed it while I was trying to clean the front lens. So this arrived on my doorstep the other day, and now I'm kind of excited to actually have a relatively nicer refractor. It's the SV520. It's the soon-to-be introductory model from SVBony. You cannot buy it right now. It won't be available for a few more weeks at least. The retail price is $235. I don't know what that will be with tariffs. We'll see. But I'll put a link down in the description box. If the link works, you can buy it. If the link doesn't work, then it hasn't been released yet. But this is a 90 millimeter. It has an 800 millimeter focal length, so f8.8 should be pretty good on planets and that kind of a thing. So let's go ahead, open the box, and see what it comes with, and we'll give it a try. I'm glad I still have these IKEA drawer bottoms. They make for a nice background. All right. Oh, there's instructions. There we go. SV520. All right, first thing to do is set up the tripod. So let's figure out which one of these. Oh, they're labeled tripod, telescope, accessory. All right. There you go, it says tripod. All right. Oh, I think there might be more than that in here. There's the 2X Barlow. And, oh, okay, it's got a 10 millimeter Plossl. Okay. This is a lot better than some of the starter telescopes that come with Huygens or the other kind of cheap eyepieces. So let's see. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. Do we need the instructions? I'm going to guess not. So we need the top part, and that's in probably the accessories box. Everything's laid out really well. That's actually that's a real nice layout, actually. This is the part. This is the part that we need. Okay, so I have to talk about this. This is a pretty solid head. When I first saw this, you know, most of these introductory telescopes, they come with an elevation like bar, like there's the one that I'm using now. This has a really nice mount. It has the dovetail, the Vixen. It has the main lock, and it has the safety here, which is pretty cool. So a lot of these only have the main lock. I'm actually glad to see this as the safety, and it has the slow motion gears. But I need to put this on the tripod. So, all right, so this shaft sort of holds everything together. Let me show you what I mean. This threaded part is going to go through the tripod, and it's going to screw into the bottom of the head of the mount right there, the threaded part in the middle. This blue part spins separately from the rest of the tripod. So let's do first things first. Let's take this and put it right there in the bottom and thread it. And at some point, it's just going to fall through. Oh, there we go. And now I'm going to flip this upside down. So here's the head mount. It goes right there. And we're just going to put that up through there. We're going to turn it. And it should get the threads. And this little shaft is going to pull up tight. It's got a hole down here at the bottom. I'm going to put a screwdriver in there so I can tighten it. Okay, that's in there pretty tight. Now we've got this little leg spacer that goes in here somewhere. I assume it goes like that, so it works like a tray. Yeah, it goes up right like this. And this, I don't. Let me see what the picture shows. With the tripod head facing upwards, place the tripod in front. Screw in the middle, the tray faces downward. I don't know. The instructions don't show. I'm thinking this has to come off. There is an Allen wrench. Let's see if this fits. It does. Okay, so this comes down. I'm going to put the tray up. I'm going to put the little nut, but I think you want to have some adjustment so you can loosen this. So I'm going to put about a thumb's width worth of distance there and then tighten it. Now this just falls down like that, and in theory, well, even that's not enough. I got to drop it down a little more. I want to be able to do that so that I can push the legs. Okay. Now, hopefully there's enough room here. Let's turn this thing. And I ran out of thread, so I'm gonna have to raise this up a little bit, but I'll skip showing you that. Okay, so I can still do that. Kind of a tight fit. What am I doing wrong? Why is it so tight over here, but not... There's a big gap right here, but not here and here. This is going to be kind of wobbly. I'll just keep tightening this, see what it does. I think the shaft might be skewed. Let's see. Well, I mean, I guess I can live with that slop. That's the top. Yeah, all that threads now. There's still a little bit of slop. There must be some variability in the angles on these. It's not going anywhere. Let's leave it like that. All right, so here is the telescope head, and this is obviously upside down. There we go. Here's where the slow motion controls can hook up to, and also right there. Let's go ahead and put on slow motion handles. Right here. There's one. And a second one. It's going to be this top one. Now, normally these have a little set screw, but these look like they just fit right on. Let me see if this works. Oh, they're kind of rubberized. That's actually kind of nice. Okay, look at that. And this one will there. Okay, now these do have shaft locks. There's one there. So they have these things. I if these are spring loaded. They are. Okay. Oops. No. Okay. Take these off. Excuse that sound. Okay. I'm loosening that. Put this guy back on. Same thing. It's on the back side. Believe me, it's here. It just screws in. All right. Now on my other mounts, these are flexible cables. I don't know if these would fit with the flexi cable, but these work fine actually.
So the tripod and the head mount are all done. Now it's time to get out the telescope.
This is the heart of the telescope. This is box number 3. It says telescope. I haven't seen it. Let's open it up. All right. It is pretty beefy. It's a 3.5 incher. All right, what we got here? All right. So we got the dovetail bar, the Vixen bar. We have what appears to be a cast metal, cast aluminum or something like that back here. We have a standard rack and pinion focuser. We can adjust it and lock it down. It has 3 screws for locking in the diagonal. I guess they really don't want that diagonal coming loose. And one thing that's kind of nice is it has this built-in tapered block here. This is for putting the viewfinder in, and I'm going to see if that fits my other viewfinders. I bet that's the standard taper block there. And up at this end, there is... Oh, it's green. Okay. Let me see if we can get this. It's got multi-coated optics. It's green.
For anti-reflectivity.
Let's take a look at those optics. There you go. Let's put it on. There we go. So let's just mount this on the tripod and we'll see what we got. If you're enjoying this video, please go ahead and push that like button down below. It means the world to little channels like this one. I have the lock screws backed out. There's a lock and then there's a safety. Let's put this in. All right. Let's do the main one first. And then I'll do the safety. And lock this down. Let's see how it works. Okay. All right. Look at that. Little. I've mounted it too far forward. So let me find a better balance point. Yeah. We're going to be putting some weight on the back, so this is probably going to be better. Lock these down. Lock that down. Yep. Okay. Okay, so far so good. We still need to put the viewfinder, and we'll take a look at what comes with the eyepieces. It has a straight through optical viewfinder with 3 screws for adjusting alignment, and this just slides into this slot with that lockdown screw. All right. It also has this hole right here, and that's for mounting this little accessory. If you have an app on your phone that lets you look at what that's pointed at, you can mount your phone in here. This is spring loaded. You can mount that in there. So this is to mount your phone. It also comes with one of these introductory
eyepiece camera mounts.
These are, I have a whole video on how to set these up, but we'll see. This one will work pretty well, I think. But let's go over to the table and look at some of the accessories that we got. Let's talk about the eyepieces first. It's based on an 1¼ inch standard eyepiece diameter. It comes with 2 eyepieces and a diagonal and a Barlow. The low magnification is a 25mm Kellner. If you look at that lens, it's a pretty good size lens. This is going to give you a pretty good view. I've had some introductory telescopes that use a Huygens or even kind of an older style, but these were popular during basically from the 1940s to the 1990s, etc. This is going to do a pretty good job. The high magnification is this 10mm. It's a Plossl. Now, Plossl and Kellner, those aren't brand names. Those are design styles for how the lenses are laid out in the barrel. Now, this Plossl has a bit of a smaller lens, but it'll still work. This will get you some good high magnification. So 800mm focal length divided by 10. This is going to give you a magnification of about 80. Now, when you're assembling these, you don't want to put these in the back of the telescope because you basically have to sit down on the ground to look up through the telescope. So we have a diagonal here, which allows you to stand up and look down into the eyepiece. So, for example, you would install this in the back of the telescope. You'd point the telescope at whatever you want, and then this just fits right there. You'd lock it in, and you could look down, and you don't have to hurt your neck by craning down and looking at the telescope. So that's what the diagonal is good for. This has a filter there. It says moon, so this is a moon filter. All right. Never use these for the sun. In fact, never point any telescope at the sun. It has a Bluetooth shutter button. This is so when you mount your phone to the eyepiece, I have a whole video that shows you how to do this using something very similar to this cell phone holder. You're going to want to use this to trigger the shutter. And that's because if you use the on phone shutter button and you push it, it shakes a little bit and you get kind of a blurry image. But if you use the Bluetooth shutter button, it works really, really well. So this will be hooked up to that when we give it a try. It also comes with a 2x Barlow lens. Now, if you've never heard of a Barlow lens, all it does is double the magnification of any eyepiece that you might put into it. So if this eyepiece directly in the telescope is going to give you a magnification of 80 times, if you put this into the Barlow, it'll give you a multiplication of 160 times. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and assemble the telescope and give it a test. So we'll just pull that out, put the diagonal in, like that, and tighten these screws. All right, I've tightened all 3 screws. And as I adjust the focuser in and out, all right, that's looking pretty good. And of course, you always want to start with a low magnification eyepiece, so we're going to put in the 25mm Kellner. For now, that's pretty good. Let's take it for a test. First, we'll try the 25mm Kellner eyepiece that has a magnification of about 32 times.
The 25mm Kellner provided very sharp views of the moon. I'm going to push the Bluetooth shutter button. You can see it is recording the moon now. I'll go ahead and stop it.
Now, let's switch that out and try the 10mm Plossl that has a magnification of about 80.
The Plossl generates very sharp images of the moon. You may have noticed a little bit of vibration here at the beginning. It does die down, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And here's Jupiter. I have the exposure turned way down on my camera because Jupiter is just so bright. That's why you can't see Jupiter's moons in this particular image.
I think I may have found the major source of the vibration. Look at this. It's wiggling at this joint right there. That seems really loose. I am wondering what's going on there. Let's disassemble this real quick. Right. There is that's a lot of wiggle. Oh my gosh, yeah, that needs tightened. Okay, so that is just a 13mm, and it tightens. Here we go. Okay, that's almost too tight. Let's just take a look at it. Let's see what happens. Just got looser. Just got looser. It seems to be loosening itself. It actually turned itself a little bit. Yeah, it's loose again. Let's remove this nut. That looks pretty good. Let's put this back on.
I think this would be a really good place to use a thrust bearing.
Super tight. Oh, did you see that? The nut is unscrewing itself as I use it. In fact, did it wobble? I got the wobbles back. Okay, I'm gonna put some thread lock on there. Some thread lock. That's super tight, and then I'm going to back it off just a little bit. That's about right. That's about how the tension should be. And I'll let the thread lock do its magic. The second thing that I had to adjust was the friction between the focuser tube and the housing here. Generally speaking, there should be a little bit of friction so that you get some resistance when you turn the focuser knob. When I first got this, it was very, very loose, and under a heavy eyepiece, if this was tilted up, this would actually start to pull out slowly. Fortunately, it's very easy to adjust. There's these two tiny little holes right there. They have set screws in it, and you take a 1.5mm Allen hex head wrench, and you go back and forth adjusting, pushing down on the plate that's buried under here that pushes on the focuser tube, and you get the friction just how you want it. Now that's separate from this knob right here, which is the focuser lock. If you have a heavy eyepiece or you have the camera with the adapter on here, you'll want to turn this so that it locks. That'll prevent this focuser tube from coming out almost regardless of how much weight you have on the end of this focuser tube. Again, I had to adjust that when it got here, but it was pretty easy. You just adjust these two set screws. So we finished with the initial test. I have some comments I need to share, and I'm going to show you two modifications that I find will really help the user experience with this telescope. One of them is totally free. The other one you might be able to borrow from one of your other telescopes. First, let's talk about the eyepieces. The 25mm Kellner is great for the moon. I found that there's really almost no chromatic aberration. This, in combination with the primary lens, gives good views. You can tell that a good share of the money they put into this went into that primary lens up front. These introductory refractors can sometimes, they can go cheap on that front lens. But on this one, you know, it's multi-coated, and it gives a really good view without the chromatic aberration around the moon, at least as little as I've ever seen with a refractor telescope. Of course, you get a really good view with this Plossl. I happen to like Plossl eyepieces. I know that the lenses on Plossl's are not very big, but they really do give a quality image. So the 10 millimeter Plossl is going to give you great close-up views of the moon. This is also the one that you'll want to use when you're looking at the planets, especially Jupiter. So let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is too small in the 25 millimeter, but you can still see the moons, and that's pretty neat to see. But if you want to see the clouds or the bands on Jupiter, you're going to have to use the 10 millimeter. Now, they do give you the Barlow lens, which should, in theory, enhance the magnification, double it, technically. But I found that if you get much more magnification beyond the 10 millimeter, like if you go to, say, a 5 or 4 millimeter eyepiece, the image gets a little too blurry for my comfort. I think 10 millimeter is almost perfect for this telescope for viewing Jupiter. Now, if you look at it with your own eyes through here, you'll find that Jupiter is very, very bright, almost too bright to see the cloud bands. But the good news is, I found that if you take the moon filter and you screw this into the bottom of the eyepiece, that you can actually start to see the clouds a little bit better. Again, Jupiter is super bright. In the images that you saw on the video, I had the exposure turned way down. And you can tell I did that because you couldn't see the 4 Galilean moons around Jupiter. And I had to do that because, again, Jupiter is so bright. So again, I think the eyepiece selection that they've given you are pretty good. They're not super dirt cheap eyepieces. Plossl is a great beginner eyepiece. Let's talk about the 2 modifications that I'm going to make. So the first one is not necessarily free, but you can get it from another telescope if you have them. Most new telescopes, they don't come with these straight through optical viewfinders anymore. A lot of them are now coming with these red dot finders. And a lot of people joke about these, but they are really fantastic. I love them. They're only like 25 bucks. And if you get the right one, they have this tapered fit that goes in the standard viewfinder holder, and it just fits right in. And voila, you suddenly have a red dot finder. And I find these so much easier to use than these straight through optical finders. If you have a right angle corrected image finder that will fit in here, even better. The other one has to do with this handle. This is the elevation handle. It obviously controls the up and down. This mount is pretty nice,
despite the wobble that I fixed with thread lock.
It has the slow motion controls. It also has this where you can unlock that and do large movements by hand, and then you can lock it. One thing I didn't talk about earlier, this is actually spring loaded, so if this gets in the way, you can actually move it and change it. But for now, this is the perfect spot for it. Same with this one down here. And of course, the key here is they gave you 2 places to attach it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And you may have seen this earlier when I was using this. When I'm using this, I have to reach out like this, like a zombie coming, like a zombie attacking the telescope. Look at that. I just feel like that. So this is very, very awkward for me. You may find it pretty easy to use. I generally like to have the slow motion cable coming out from the bottom, so it's more like this. The wonderful thing about this telescope is that the mount is very versatile. So I'm going to show you how to make this much more user-friendly using only an Allen wrench. Okay, first things first, let's remove the telescope very carefully. Be very safe. All right, we'll set this down on the table. And then we're going to flip this around. There are 4 bolts holding this on. So I want to keep this with the attachment bolt going up, just like that. Keep this arrangement fine, but take the handle part and turn it, oh gosh, quite a bit. I want this part to be pointing out that way. And you'll see how easy it is. So look at all the pre-drilled holes they give you. There's a lot of options here. Look at that. So we're gonna, we gotta take this handle off. So we wanna rotate this so that it comes out like about that. So I'm gonna lock it down. And it's got this little cover on it. All right. Put that on there for protection. And just like that. It really is fast. All right, now let's put the telescope back on. All right, so let's test this out. There you go. Much more comfortable. Look at that. If you want, you could even have this come down steeper angle. Also, if you happen to have other telescopes to scavenge from, these happen to be the right diameter to attach longer, flexible, slow motion controlled cables. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Either way. But to be honest, the ones that they ship it with, they work just fine. All right, so I've got this all set up the way that I like to have my telescopes set up. Let's go over a pros and cons list, and we'll decide if this is the right telescope package for you. The first pro is this lens up front. It's pretty beefy. It's 90 millimeter, roughly 3.5 inches. It's multi-coated, and it produces pretty good images from my use so far. I have to say that it does produce the least amount of chromatic aberration that I've seen with introductory telescopes. The second pro is the set of eyepieces that it comes with. It comes with a Kellner and a decent Plossl. Now, if you've ever used any introductory telescopes, you'll know that that's actually a pretty good set of eyepieces to get you started in astronomy. You can always upgrade from there, but this will do for now. The third item is this mount. Now, I like to talk about this mount. I'm a big fan of these side-mounted alt-azimuth mounts that have the slow motion controls. This one has the lock and unlock, so you can do large movements. You lock it down, and then you have much finer control over this. I really like that. And you've already seen how versatile this is when I changed the attachment point from sticking out this direction to sticking out here. If you want to do the same thing on the azimuth control, that's just as easy as well. And one other thing, this mount has the standard dovetail mount, so in the future, if you buy another telescope or you upgrade to a different telescope, if it has a Vixen dovetail block on the bottom, which is very, very common, it'll fit in here as well. So the first con, it's not really a negative, but it's just a personal preference. I'm not a huge fan of these straight-through optical viewfinders. If this was a right-angle corrected image viewfinder, that would be fantastic, but those are really, really expensive. So the great middle ground are these red dot viewfinders. I love these. I have these on all of my telescopes. It's just, they're no muss, no fuss. They make life a lot easier. The second con is sort of a mixture of things, actually. I've noticed that when I'm using this, if I bump it a little bit, it takes about 3 seconds for those vibrations to die down. Now, I come from the Dobsonian world where there's pretty much almost no vibration. So I always have to get used to that when I go back to the world of refractors. But I think part of this vibration has to do with the issue that I had with one of the tripod legs. If you recall, there's actually a gap between one of the legs and that tray. Now, that doesn't really have a huge effect, but I think that does contribute to the little bit of vibration that we're seeing on this. So with all that said, is this the telescope for you? Well, I have to say, for $235, this is a pretty good introductory telescope package. So I don't think you could go wrong with this. The eyepieces are pretty decent, the views are pretty decent, and of course, this mount is going to last you quite a while. I have to say thanks to SVBony for letting me be one of the first people to use the SV520 Telescope. This was a pretty fun experience. And let me say, if you want to see 2 of my other videos, go ahead and click on these. I think you might enjoy those as well. Thank you for watching, and clear skies, everybody.